Hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for watching. Check out my channel below if you want to see the historical background of this kit. I'm not going to go through that again. I'll go through really quick the parts layout, but the purpose of this video is actually to do a kit walkthrough in HO scale, and I believe this kit will be out in, I think it might already be out, but don't hold me to that. Check out Bill's website for Banta Modelworks. This is an HO build, and he says that on the information on the website that I saw, it's supposed to be out by now. Right now. This is August of 2025. It should be out by now for an O scale version and for F scale version. And as far as beyond that, I don't know if there's going to be any other scales, but it looks like those three for sure. I can tell you HO's out because I got one. So let's go through this real quick. If you're interested in the historical stuff, check out the video that was posted earlier, and you can see exactly what's involved as far as recreating the actual structure. So this thing sat up in Telluride, Colorado. It wasn't close to a rail line, but on this, let's show you a picture. On this thing, it's got a loading dock here. There's a boxcar sitting next to it, and then it's got all of the structure, the dormer windows, and there's a tram entrance at the back. So if you buy this kit, you'll become completely aware of what's involved. So instructions, there's 12 pages, and there is lots and lots of instructions, numbered steps, what to do. Love the photos. So I thought I came out with pretty good instructions for my kits. And then I opened this. So I may have to, now granted, this is a very involved kit. Take a look at just this one page that we're going to build. That is the back side right here of the ore bin. And then these are the dormers and the front piece that gets built onto the front of let me see, what am I doing? The front of this structure right here. This is all getting built out onto this. So you build the main, bottom, back, and then those four major pieces. That kind of gives you a framework with which to start. And then you start building all the smaller pieces onto it and then onto the roof. So that said, there's a part sheet to help identify it, and this is very handy because if you're looking for something, check this out. You'll see black and red on here. Ignore the red, that just means there's etched lines on the pieces, but the actual piece is actually in black, and window openings and that type of thing. So there's lots and lots of pages, 8 pages of just, these are actually the laser cutouts of everything. So this is the, what is this, the roof? Yeah, this is like the main roof, so you can see exactly the shape. Now obviously you're not going to mistake the main roof with a, I don't know, a door. So unless it's your first time building a kit, and hopefully if it's your first time building a kit, I don't know if I'd start with this one, but you could. So let's see. This is the, oh, that's the roof. I thought that was the base for a second. That's the roof. And then there's a few other pieces in here. This is mostly the roof, and you can see there's some material right here with which to surface the roof. All those boards that I just showed you that are on those that ore bin and the stuff on the back, and then any place that you're putting it across any of the etched lines. Some of those will have perpendicular lines to put a brace on it, so then you'll see it looks like it's got boards and then it's got braces on the front. So this will be the braces on the front of that type of piece. So lots and lots of bass. 2 bags of basswood strip wood. So that is, I believe, the back. No, that one may be the bottom. It's either the back or the bottom. And then you've got other pieces, and you can see, like I said, some of these pieces actually have grooves etched into them, and that represents some of the boards that go across the top of the surface. So there's a better view of it right there. So those are just etched lines, and we're going to go ahead and enhance those as we do the build. So these are the big pieces that go onto the back. So this builds out the actual structure, and then there's smaller pieces that are wings that go across that. So there's 4 of those, and then a back and a bottom. That builds the primary base that you're going to then attach all these other pieces to. And there's some smaller pieces. Those are all etched. And then just some bags of other parts. These are the dormers. And then there's some more fronts to the dormers. And I'm not sure what those small pieces are. Probably roof panels or something. This is a separate water tank that comes with the kit. And you can kind of see it. So that's how you build it out, and then the base that goes on it. I haven't even opened the bag, so I'm just kind of winging it. These are all basswood pieces, and you can see the etching on some of these. The bottom piece down here, that's actually the lines, so it looks like timbers. And then there's guidelines, and that's where you would put some of the strip wood. So it looks like it's got a wood wall with bracing on the outside. And that's basically what you start with. You start with that, and you build that up. And then you can see all these doors, and they've got all the wood pieces that build up the door itself. And then my favorite, my old enemy, windows. So when I built, and all the acetate that goes with it, so you can do like windows, lower sash, upper sash, lower sash, up or down. When I built the Banta kit for the machine shop, which was part of the engine facility, it was a machine shop, boiler house, and car shops that all get put together. Just the machine shop, I lost count. And I can't remember if it was 96 or 98 windows. This looks a lot more forgiving than that one, but I'm excited to do it nevertheless, because this looks like a really cool kit. So anyway, website for my channel, for my web store. I don't sell this kit. You'll have to go to Bill's website to do that. And then there's also a video that prior to this that has all the historical photos of it, which would be really cool reference to go check out to see, how it looked, how it weathered. Maybe you're building it after abandonment, or after a point in time where you want to see how it started to weather, so you can kind of get some weathering tips. That's really when I saw the photos, I was like, ooh, this is going to be handy. So that's it for the kit. We're going to start with the main structure build first. We'll walk through that, and then move on step by step, so you can follow along if you're going to build it. If you're not going to, you just want to watch me build it, that's cool too. So let's get on to the build, and I think I'll go get a beverage first before I start this. So, all right, guys, thanks for watching so far, and let's go have fun. All right, guys, we're doing the build. Rock and roll. So let me give you an idea of kind of where we're at and what's been put together, but it's not been glued. So I've got clamps on here just to hold everything together so you can see it, but not necessarily so that you can go on immediately to the next step, because I got to go back and glue everything. But I figured I'd show you. So when you're doing the build, the tabs and slots go together really snug, and you really can't get them put together unless you sand the tabs down. I don't know if I can show this to you, but for example, there's a lot of tabs here that are going to go into holes, and then this edge here is going to snug right up against the surface. So when you are putting this together, you want to take these tabs, these edges here, and you want to file them so that you taper them a little bit up to where the tab stops, up to that surface. So it takes a little extra time, but it's a lot easier to put it together, and you're going to get really snug fits if you do it that way. You can't make the slots too wide. You have to have a little bit of snugness in there. Otherwise, everything's just going to be really wobbly and fall apart, and you're never going to be able to get it together. So file it, test fit it, file it, test fit it. So also, if once I get stuff put together, I tend not to glue the piece and then put it into the slots. I tend to do, and Bill does this too, I tend to put a little fillet of glue along the seams, and then once it's snug in there, then I add the glue. So I've been doing that on my kits for years, so it really works well. You can use wood glue, takes longer. You can use like medium or thick viscosity super glue. Sometimes I'll take glue and I'll just spot weld it in place and then let it dry, and then I'll come back and put a bead of glue down a certain seam. So anyway, enough about glue, enough about filing, but test fit everything, and you will have to file, test fit, file, test fit, file. Just go ahead and do it. That's the right way to do it, and you're going to get a really excellent product when you're done. But just know that that's the right way to do it. Is it a pain? Well, yeah. But I mean, it's the way to get a nice solid structure. So let me go through this. There's two walls here in the inner walls. There's intermediate walls, and then there's the outside walls. So it should look roughly like this. I'll just hold it there when we're done. And you'll notice that there's going to be a back piece for this back corner. And then that assembly is going to sit right here. And again, all these tabs are, I mean, once you test fit it, you'll know what you need to sand. But all these tabs here that insert into the wall, you won't be able to put it in there until you file the tabs down, and then you can get test fit in there. If you don't file it enough and you force it in there, you run the risk of breaking this corner that you just glued together. So that's what these are for. And this says AA, and this says A on the corner, so you know you want to grab the right one that matches the letter. The other side, yep, is piece B. So just take your time, get those corners done right. So that's basically how that goes together. Those are the outside walls. Initially, what you're going to build is you're going to build the base, which I think in a video I called the roof the base, but it was actually underneath it. You're going to assemble the base. You can see all the slots are going to get filled. They're going to get filed. The tabs are going to get filed, and they're going to get a nice snug fit. You could file the slots too if you wanted to. You just want a snug fit where it's flush all the way. So we're going to get these four walls assembled. You want to make sure that the scribed outside edges on this, on this, on this, on this, you want to make sure those are all facing out, because the walls are basically mirror images of each other. So just make sure you look for that. The instructions are really good for this step. So what you really want to do is you want to get these four walls in place, the back and the base. Take your time, get good glue joints, make sure everything's nice and square. File it first. So that's important. And then once you're done with that, then we move on to attach this piece right in here. Again, lots of filing. And then this front piece. That one, you're going to want to file that one and clamp it in place. So when you're done with the four walls, and you get, the next step is these two pieces, and then the next step is this piece here with the back, and this piece here with the back. And that really closes up the entire structure so that you have the perimeter walls in place. And they're all leaning on each other. They're all tabs and slots are nice and solid. So take your time, get this far, and then we'll move on to the next step. So this is step one is do the interior walls and the back and the base. That's kind of a big step because there's a lot to that. And what that does is that gives you a foundation. So you want that one to really be dead on. Then you add the two intermediate walls, which are, because they're not the outside walls yet. Then step 3, you're going to add this little piece and you're going to add the front piece. And then step 4 is the back corners. And what that does is that makes it, then we have a box. It's a nice solid box. So spend the extra time to make sure it's nice and square, and then we'll move on to the next step. We're not even talking about that yet. So in order for you to see kind of what's going on, I'm going to disassemble this so that way you can see kind of better how everything goes. So we're going to take this off because we don't need that. We're going to take this out. It's just sitting there. I got to file these. I filed a lot of those, but I need to file the tabs on this one. It will not go in if I force it. I'll destroy something. And same with these pieces. These need to be filed. So now we're at this part. And none of this is glued together, so I got to take these off anyway. So the back will only go in one way. Oh, and also notice that the burn marks of the laser on the back side is much more pronounced than the front side. So that looks pretty clean. There's a few little edges and scorches and stuff, but not like the back side. Back side is where the laser goes through the material and then it hits what it's laying on, and that's where you get the scorching. So you want to make sure that as you're building it, the etch side is on the outside. The scorching is very minimal, and the really crappy interior burnt up stuff goes on the inside. So take your time, do it right. So we're gonna disassemble this. So because I gotta glue all this together anyway, and I'm not gonna try to get glue around. Hang on. I'm not going to try to get glue down this seam with that wall there if I don't have to. Eventually I'll put that wall there, and then I'm going to try to get on the inside of it, which is just going to be impossible. So there are some difficult corners and angles to get in, and you might, if you can't get a toothpick or a bottle or anything in there, then you might have to make yourself a pool of stuff and get something down in there. I've used paintbrushes a lot of times for this type of stuff, but there's not a ton of those steps on this kit, but there are some. So we're going to attach this to these two to this all at the same time, because mainly we want to make sure that the back tabs are in the slots. We want to make sure the wall tabs here are all the way down, because this has to be square. If this isn't square, then you're going to fight with your kit the whole time. So I know I'm spending a lot of time talking about this, but I want to emphasize that this is a really important step. And then as you go through and follow everything, this will square itself up as you get everything glued together, filed and glued together, and then going forward, it will be much easier. So do that and then go on to the next step. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to glue all this together, and then we'll have that finished piece, and then we'll move on to the next step. Got it? Got it. Hey guys, welcome back. So I went ahead and did all the stuff we just talked about, and the main structure is assembled. I spent a fair amount of time reinforcing all the seams just because I wanted a nice, good, solid base with which to proceed with. So this is essentially steps 1 through 4. Step 5 is to put this piece on. We didn't really talk about it, but that's all it is, so I put that on too. So what we're going to do next is we're going to talk about all the different assemblies that we're going to build and then attach to it. To find some of the assemblies, the instructions has, like we talked about, has the parts diagram. And for the rear dormer walls and the rear ore bin, it tells you exactly what to go find. Some of these are on a single sheet, like these are on a sheet. And then some of these are just in there loose. So it's not difficult to find them, but if you need to refer to this, you can look at all the parts. That'll be the same for the rest of the kit too. So what we're going to do next is, you find my instructions, we're going to go on to step 6. Step 6 is for the backside. There's a dormer that's going to go on it right here, and then we're going to put an ore bin underneath it. So I'll explain kind of what we're going to do. So that's what it looks like. So these pieces will go together. So this one's a little bit easier than the other. I'm not going to go ahead and put this whole thing, stage it together, because you get the idea. But when the 3 walls and floor are assembled, there's a opening on the back. There'll be a floor in there. There's an opening on the back, and that's going to be this plain wall as well. So this thing, to give you an idea of what happens, is this building piece plugs into the back. But it kind of threw me a little bit at first, because what happens is there's an opening here, right here, and right here. And what you do is you take this and you put it in it. But the opening has, what I thought was plugged, the opening has a vertical wall that is lined up right behind it. So to me, it looked like it was plugged. Well, it wasn't. It's actually just a void that then butts up against the wall on the other side that just lines up with it. So it looks like that when it's done. When I put this in, I had to sand this down a little bit, and not halfway, but maybe, I don't know, 25% of the tab I took off, so that this would actually go in nice and flush. I could have just glued it in there and probably covered it up with siding, strip wood and stuff like that later in the steps, but I want to make sure it fit really well because I wasn't sure what was going to be ahead of it. So I went ahead and sanded each of those, where are they? These 2 walls. So they both will sit here, and then what happens is that's the rear dormer, that's the bottom, is when you glue that in, it's locked in and everything's good. Then, see if I can grab this. This, I haven't glued this together, it's just sitting there. So what happens is this then plugs into two slots in the backside underneath that dormer. But there's tabs on here to align it, and you put it in there, but then you slide it up so it seats underneath that dormer assembly. And what happens is then you have some flexibility on how to do it. So you put it in there, and then you slide it up underneath, and then everything lines up. So, okay, you can fall apart now. You've done your job. So that's the two pieces on the back. So this assembly, and we'll use the picture. This assembly is step 6. Steps 7 and 8 are the bin that goes in and then slides up. So the slots for the bin worked fine. The slots for the dormer, I just had to stand the tabs down. Again, as you're building this, test fit everything and then make adjustments as you need to. Okay, so that's step 6, and then this bin, the ore bin, is step 7 and 8. Moving on. Okay, so now what we get to is the roof sections. And I haven't built them. Again, they're just sitting together just to show you. And then I'll go through and do it. But I'll probably do these out of order. Step 9 is the main roof. And that sits right here. And then there's alignment tabs on here. There's slots on the ends. There's 2 on one side, 2 on the other. And then there's just a little alignment tabs like that. And what that does is allow you to obviously align it. I know what you're saying. All right, so that is also on all the roof sections, so we'll cover it with this one, but that way you can get an idea. There is strip wood in the kit so that when you stain, paint, whatever, the roof, all of the outside edges along here, those have strip wood so you can skin it. But you won't be skinning this around here and the dormer sections either. You won't be skinning those because you're going to put a roof over that. You're going to put a roof over this. And there's in the kit there's a diagram that shows you exactly what you shouldn't put strip wood on. So basically this big cutout and then these guys, no strip wood. Other than that, do strip wood all around it. It'll make it look good. And then the dormer windows, again, these aren't assembled. I'm going to glue these together when we're done. The dormer windows get assembled, and they're going to end up here, like so. Now, I haven't really come across the part where if this all gets glued on, or if you can disassemble it, I think you can probably remove it when you're done and then have a removable roof, but I haven't really decided. I will probably attach all of the roof sections because I have no intention to detail the interior on this, but I know some people will want to. So that's going to be something for you guys to decide and research. I probably will glue mine on, so I don't care about the interior. So again, oh, and also before I forget, so when you get these on, you're going to go ahead, you're not going to do this, which creates the valleys on the roof. You're going to go ahead and put strip wood here, here, there, there, and there. And then there's also, to cap this, you're going to put a little piece of strip wood down the center of it. And you can see this one actually is sitting kind of funny. And I'm not sure if I need to twist some of these to line them better. but when I get done putting the ridge line piece across here, it'll look a lot better. So this is what we're aiming for. So that's what we want it to look like. So strip wood up and around. Now this isn't the only dormer window. We also have a dormer window here on top there, and then this is the other one, and this one I believe is the back one, which is going to go like here on top of the rear cupola. So starting to see how this thing is going to shape. It just keeps getting bigger. There's not a lot more on this as far as shape. Once we get rid of all the MDF and get it all basically assembled, then we're going to have the basic structure, and then we're going to be doing siding, roofing, windows and doors, etc. There's a loading dock in the front. We'll do that. But we're focusing right now on just getting everything else done. Also, there's a tiny little roof section here. I forget which step this is, but we're going to end up on step, see, the loading dock is step 14. So all of this will get us caught up to step 14. So again, little alignment pieces. And then that is going to go here. And a piece fell in. So I'll go after that. So that gets us up to step 14. So steps 5 through 13 is this video segment. And then once all this is done, I'll come back, I'll show you what's finished, and then we'll carry on. It looks like the next step will be the loading dock, and then siding. So all of this is the siding pieces that go all around the bottom part, so it looks like timbers on the outside. All of that is basswood. So when we finish with the dock and we start working on the siding, all that is basswood panels that we're going to put on. They're etched, so they have lines, they have guidelines, vertical, and then you're going to put braces on the panels, and then you should have something on the corners too to tidy those up. So getting ahead of ourselves, we're going to go ahead and finish this. So I'm going to assemble all these little dormers, make sure they fit nice and snug, they're aligned, do all the trim work, and now we're getting into the pieces of strip wood in those bags. So we're getting pretty far, but let's finish the main structure. Then we'll come back and we'll talk about the loading dock and then the siding pieces. So let me go. Okay guys, so jumping ahead, I went ahead and took care of all those steps. Again, the roof sections are added, and they're not glued on, but they've been assembled, and the trim, use a small piece, you can see the trim around the outside has been added according to the, I believe it was the parts diagram. Anyway, it tells you where to add the trim, where not to. So on the back side, this actually butts up against the structure, so we don't need trim there. And then on these side wings, I actually started to add trim, and I ended up sanding about half of it off, so that was kind of a waste. I thought I might want it there, but it turns out you don't need to add it, so if you're thinking about it, you can go for it, but I did, and then I ended up removing a lot of it. So this piece is done. The back piece is done. And again, you're going to add trim to the face of it, and you're going to add trim to the sides of it. And then the ridge cap piece, you can add that. And not the back side. So on this roof, now I did something, so according to the instructions, it says It never really talks about removable roofs or whatever, so obviously these can come off because they're not really attached to anything else. I'm choosing not to attach them until the very end, but I probably want to add some lighting and stuff to it, so it may be a while until I actually add it. The main structure, I tried something that is not listed in the instructions, so I really warn you to think about this before you do it. Think about how you're going to use the kit, what you're going to do inside, what access you need, that type of thing. I did not glue the roof. The top dormer, the middle one is this one, and then the lower dormers, the two. These are the lower dormers and the top one, those are all separate entities. And then the main roof comes off. I, however, since I'm working on another kit of that is very similar, and I tested it and it worked great on that kit, this kit now has kind of a little touch of mine. So if you lift this straight up, this whole piece comes together, and I reinforced the heck out of the inside of these too, just so that, just with glue. You can put strip wood or stuff in it too. But I did it in such a way that this just comes straight off, and now it's a lot easier to work on it. And then, so, I'm jumping around. So, when I decided to cover this with roofing, all of the valleys in here are kind of unified, so it's easy for me to seal these with glue. I've already kind of put a lot of super glue down these seams, medium viscosity super glue. You can use wood glue, you can do whatever you want. But if you wanted to, you could even kind of putty these too, just to make sure that when they meet, they have a nice solid, angle, like a seam. So, and then to put this back on, you gotta be careful, because if you get any glue to leak down in here, it's gonna glue this whole assembly to your structure. So you really gotta be careful if you're thinking about doing this. If you're not sure, just don't do it. But to put it back on, all I have to do is insert this piece in front of that front wall, and then the bottom piece, and the whole thing just slides in place. It's like Bill made it to do this, thinking of me having to nag him about it. So I asked him about it, and he never really mentioned it in the instructions. So he said he was probably going to add something. For some reason, this side right here, this corner, always snags when I try to put it back on. So I may have to file down that little insert. So, oh. All right. There, you can see it just slid in place. So, so let's talk about this roof now. So you'll notice when you assemble these, you can do all this stuff and then put it on. But there's the ridge piece that goes down, and then there's the front piece. And this is all strip wood that you cut and fit and sand and everything. And then there's the side trim pieces on here as well. So these lower roofs are the same thing as that one, they're just smaller. So, and then the entire outside gets trimmed as well. This gets us up to step 13. So this is what it looks like, what we talked about when it's done. Now, you notice inside here isn't trimmed, inside here isn't trimmed, and inside here isn't trimmed. And the reason for that is that this whole space is going to sit, this whole piece of the kit here is going to sit into this void. And you'll notice there's a little bit of a gap. That's because when you get done doing the siding on this, you're going to skin it with thin strip wood. And you need that little bit of a gap so this thing will fit on there. So I imagine, not having built this yet, I imagine it's going to be fairly snug fit. So we may end up having to do something as far as sanding the perimeter, especially if you use, water-based stain and it warps the wood and it swells. Let it dry overnight or 2 or 3 days, and then try the fit again. But whether these are glued on or not is irrelevant. It's still going to have a fit issue. But what I'm looking at is there should be plenty of room for the strip wood to go on the outside shell of this, and then have the roof sit over the top of it. These little guys, they're going to have siding. So anyway, so that's where we sit right now. So we're moving on to step 14, which is the dock supports. So let's talk about the docks. So I didn't glue this on. I didn't move ahead. It was just sitting there. I was test fitting it. So the dock has some etching that runs down it. And then these are the inserts that go inside the dock doors. And there's little alignment slots on the front. So this just snaps in there really slick. And then the dock is assembled with a piece on the end. Can't really see it very well. And then, so there's two pieces for the ends and then one for the front. And you'll notice it might be a little bit long, so you would just have to trim it when you get it in. But this doesn't go underneath like is typical. This actually sits in front of it. So the best way to do that is to flip it over upside down, and that way put this on and butt it up against it, and then put the ends and butt those up against it, and then trim any of the extra off of this. And then when the whole assembly's done, then you can slide it in there. You'll notice that these lines aren't uniform. There'll be a large gap and then a tiny gap on the bottom. So whichever way you do align this, make sure that you match the lines. So if it's got a large gap on top, or a small gap on top, make sure this one has a small gap on top, and then it's wider at the bottom so it's uniform, so it looks like the whole thing. I don't think it says that in the instructions. It's just one of the things I noticed. So anyway, when we get the box done, and this is boxed in, again, this isn't underneath, this is actually butted up against the front. So when all of this whole thing is boxed in on three sides, then we're going to slide this thing straight in and glue it in place. And then the front wall, and I forget which step we're on right now, but we've moved forward. Then that goes on top in front of the dock. So let's talk about a couple of things. Number one, hey, now we have stuff that we want to talk about staining. So you can either stain the stuff in advance, let it dry, wait it, make sure it doesn't warp, or you can build this whole thing, make sure there's no glue exposed, sand any of that off, and then stain it, hopefully not having it snap, warp, twist, bend, whatever, if you're using especially like water-based stain. Alcohol-based stain's better. It's not perfect, but it's better. So if you want to go ahead and proceed and build and then stain, it's up to you. Your call. Doesn't really specify in the kit. I think now we're getting into personal preference of building a craftsman kit. If you do decide to stain the material and it's glued onto the wall, then that's going to make it resist warping. Just go really easy on stain. Don't saturate everything. If you are going to stain it in advance, then you're going to want to do a couple of things. Number one, you're going to want to stain one side and the other. You're not going to see this side, but what's going to happen is this side and this side are going to expand together. So what's going to happen is it's not going to warp. And warp happens when the fibers get saturated and expanded with the solution that you're using on one side, and you don't sand the other, and you don't stain the other side. So there's nothing. The one side expands, the other side you haven't put anything on, so it's still in the original shape. So it tightens up because the other side is curving on it, and that's why it warps. So when you see that happen, it's because that's why it happens. If you ever notice on a piece that's maybe triangular or something, you might get or a door opening. I've seen where windows openings will absorb more because they're cut so the solution can get into the fiber, and you'll see that windows will actually, the openings will actually expand and tighten up the window, but the piece underneath it, the part of the material underneath it hasn't been able to absorb as much, and you'll get distortion. And the best thing to do when that happens is just weight it down, flip it over every once in a while, like literally every 2-3 hours or every hour initially, and let it dry overnight or let it dry 2 days. So I usually, when I stain stuff, I'll stain it, I'll come back the next day and take a look at it and see how it dried. But initially, I'll let it dry for maybe half an hour, flip it over, weight it down again. Anyway, we're not talking about the skid anymore. That's just something to watch out for. It'll just make for a more successful build. So let's talk about adhesives, because in this kit, they reference what kind of adhesive they use. So wood glue, I use Titebond 3, it's called. Hang on. Yeah, Titebond 3, because it's made for, it's wood glue, but it's waterproof. As waterproof as a glue can be. So this is the kind that I use, and only because it's made for wood, and it's the waterproof variant of Titebond. The other would probably work fine, but that's just what I use. The instructions references and talks about Super 77. It's a 3M product. I've been using this stuff for years. Bill Banta got me hooked on this stuff, and I use this for corrugated metal, paper, wood on wood, big panels. So for example, on this kit, so now we're getting into step 17, and yeah, well, and so it does talk about step 16 to use 3M Super 77 on the back of this, spray it, and then put it on, and line up the doors, obviously. And one of the things nice about that when you use it as an adhesive is that it's like a rubber material, and it creates a layer. So if you do stain something and it works its way through the material, it's not going to penetrate beneath that. Anyway, I've used that stuff for a very long time, and I think it's great. I've used it for like cutouts of like board and batten, spray the back of it, stick it on there. It's awesome. You can use wood glue, but this stuff will take a while to apply, because that just it's a spray can, so you can just spray it on. This you're gonna have to use like paintbrush or a toothpick. I still use toothpicks for everything. The instructions for this says spray it on both surfaces. Well, do yourself a favor and do not spray it on, for example, this piece, which would be fine, and then spray it on this front, because you're going to get stuff everywhere, and you're never going to clean it all up. And this is after the dock has been put in, so you're going to get sticky rubber garbage all over the front of this, on the wood and everything else, and it'll be ruined. Basically, you're going to have to scratch build something to fix it. So lay this down on a piece of clean newspaper and then spray it. If you're going to do something else, move it to a new piece of newspaper, or whatever whatever surface you're going to spray it on. It is going to leave rubbery mess, sticky mess wherever, but it does dry. I'd say give yourself like 10 or 15 seconds, maybe 30 if you're lucky, but this stuff right here is going to kind of go everywhere if you just overspray it and you really don't pay attention to it. But like I said, the instructions say put it on both surfaces. I've never done that. I've used this stuff for years, and I have never had a problem with it peeling off or glue the stuff on there. Now, if you go really light on it and test this stuff, if you haven't used it before, test it on some other material or a really simplistic kit that you might have, and then try it there and get used to it. Because this is a pretty complex kit and it's pretty involved. So it's nothing you can't take part of it off and rebuild it, but nobody wants to go down that road. So, okay, so let's talk. So now let's assume the dock's done. Let's assume the front wall's on. We got our Super 77 or our Type Bond 3 on the back of it. We've decided either to stain it now or stain it later. I'm probably going to stain it after all of this stuff is on and before I start adding the strip wood trim and the sides. So that would take us just up to step 77. Because step 18, we're starting to trim the walls. And that's like a whole page. Trimming and siding is a whole page. So what we're going to do is we're going to do it in this order. So let's just assume that the dock is done. And then the instructions say take this piece. The left and right pieces look the same, and they only go up a little ways. They go up like that. The other side's the same. Goes up about yay high below that first row of windows. Again, for me, and you'll notice that it fits front and back. It fits with no overhang. So, and you'll notice there's etched lines on it too. We're going to come behind this step, and what we're going to do is we're going to add strip wood. And then we're going to add some on the top, and then we're going to add even more up here. So you're going to learn to love strip wood. So that's that piece, okay? And we're going to work our way around the back. And we put that piece on. Then we take this piece, a little bit taller, on. And then we'll take the big back piece on. So that's what it's going to look like. The other side, we've got matching 3 pieces. And all these things will go on. And then we'll be done. After those are all done, I'm going to look really hard at staining those with a stain. I'm probably going to use a Hunter line stain. I like Cordoban brown, but I also sometimes thin Cordoban brown because sometimes I think it looks a little bit too dark. Or I'll put like just a touch of like cedar in it to give it like a little bit of a wood tone. But I haven't really decided what I'm going to do with stains yet. So I don't have to decide that until after this step. So, all right. So that's it. So I'm going to go ahead and attach all those pieces, and you'll have to keep watching to decide to see if I decided to stain them or not. I think it's probably a good time to. And then after that, step 18 says let's trim out the lower walls. This represents a heavy timber foundation. So we're putting all the beams up and down, and then there's some trim that goes along the cap of it too. And then once we get a lot of that trimming done, then we're going to go up here and we're going to work on the ore bin, and then we'll start actually putting the siding on, I believe is after that. So let's go ahead and get these panels done and put on, and then we'll start explaining what we're going to do as far as the trim section. Got it? I got some work to do, so I will be back. All right, so step up to 17 is done now. So we've done the loading dock in the front and the front wall, and we've done the panels around the outside. So those are done. You'll notice those panels all have vertical lines on them, as does the front wall has them too. So what we need to do is we need to cap this with some, I think it's like 7 by 14 inch material or something like that. And then we're going to do all the verticals as 6 by 6s. That's step 18. And that's actually a lot of work because you're going to go all the way around this. Now, I haven't stained these side panels. I'll probably do that as part of this process. And then I will stain the wood and then attach those as well. I want to stain the material before I glue it on because for at least the strip wood, because if you get glue as you're gluing it on and you then try to stain it, it's not going to work. You're gonna have mess. So stain that in advance. So that's step 18 is all of the strip wood. It's also step 19. It's step 20. It's step 21. Step 22 is just to cover these two little dormers with siding. So I'm gonna skip that. I'm just gonna consider that as part of the rest of the siding that we're gonna do, which is next. And then step 22 is to do the dormers, the siding. It's just a little bit of material. And then step 23 and 24 is to do the ore bin in the back. So this piece here is going to get skinned with material, and on page 4 you'll see what the pieces look like. So these guys right here. So ore bin walls, left hand, right hand, front, which is actually the back. So so they look like this. They're going to go right here, and then you can have another one for this side, and then you're going to have another one for this side. When that's done, you're going to skin that ore bin with some 12 by 12s, and all these vertical lines, you're going to cover them with a 12 by 12s. So you're going to make this look like a big beefy ore bin. And then when you're done with that, you're going to do the bottom. And there's scribed lines on the MDF under here, and you're going to cover, you should be able to cover all the seams. You're going to cover all of these scribe marks down here. Oh, couldn't see that. And then you're going to go dig this out. Now this is out of order because this is later. This is like step, I don't know, let me find it. Step 34. So step 34 says go find this. Put some glue on this, and that makes a template. So what you're going to do is you're going to cut, you're going to get tired of 12 by 12s. So you need one for that, and you need one for this and one for this. And to get the angle right, part of the template right here is what you should actually cut out. It looks like a 45-degree angle, so if you have like a chopper, one of those tabletop cutters, which I have, which is right there, you're going to use that to cut these as a 45-degree angle. And then once you set up the chopper, you can just mass produce. Like if you know you need 7 of these at a certain length, just set it up and then just chop a whole bunch off at once. It's so much better than doing it by hand. So when we get these done, we're going to take these and we're going to put them underneath the coal bin here. And I'll probably break them off. So I will build these and then I'll attach them at some point. You're going to just see them appear when I feel safe. But since this thing is going to get all of the siding on it and it's going to get handled and sanded and cut the openings and all that stuff, since we're going to do all that, I'm not going to attach those until later. So you'll just see those magically appear. But since I'm doing the ore bin and the strip wood and the all the strip wood goes on this, I'm going to do it all at once. And then, because I like to do things organized. So I understand why it's in a later step, but it's mostly to protect you from yourself. So, all right. So I'm going to go ahead and get that stuff done, and then we will take a look at it, and then we will do what is next. I mean, we're burning through a lot of steps now. I think we're back up, if you don't count the dormers as part of a separate earlier step, and I'm not gonna. We're up to step number 25 out of 48, so we've passed the halfway mark. Siding, and then windows. We won't even talk about windows because we're going to do that completely separately, and there's a lot of them. So, all right, I got work to do. Gotta go. All right, so let's go over what we've done. Oh, so when we last stopped, the sheet siding had been added. So since then, it's been stained. You could stain it beforehand if you wanted to. I chose to glue it on and then stain it. The etched lines that were vertical on all these side panels, the 6x6s, the 1/16 inch strip wood has been added. The cap has been added on top. It's a little bit bigger. I think it was like 7x14. I keep saying that, but I think that's what it is. And then going around the back side, the ore bin on the back has all been braced. The sides, the ore bin panels have been added. They've been stained. These are all 12x12s in HO scale. And then underneath. Now, at some point, I'm going to add these, but I'm holding off on doing anything because I want to minimize the handling that I'm doing, so none of these snap off. Because I know me, and I'm going to snap them off. So, but these braces are going to end up right here on each one of these, and they're assembled by cutting out strip wood with the template that's inside the kit. It just folds over and glues together. I just used the spray adhesive and then glued it together. So I made more than I needed to because I had actually added more than I needed to here. I actually aligned these boards here with the braces here and added a bottom sill plate here too. So since I started kind of getting a little creative on this, generally these would go straight down to a board. Anyway, I kind of did a little bit different, and you'll be able to see it in some of the finished photos, but essentially I put one of these braces underneath here rather than doing it like the kit says. And the kit actually, I think there's 4 on here. Let's take a look real quick, shall we? Yeah, so the kit actually lists 4 of these, as you can see in the photo. So I actually added more, partly because I thought that I was going to be adding them to align with each one of these vertical braces. There's scribe siding for each one, or scribe lines for each one of these. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to put one on each. And then, without reading the instructions, I said, well, I must need one for each one of those. And then when I put a bottom sill plate on, it just had, sort of makes sense to align these. Yeah, that's not exactly what the instructions say. So anyway, to make mine look better, since I started to kind of do my own thing with this bottom plate, I went ahead and added one to each one. I think it looks better, but it's not what the instructions say. So just be aware of that if you're looking at mine. Once these are all attached on the bottom, there'll be a beam that sits on the very bottom, like a footer, that'll rest on the ground. And then there's a cross brace on the front and back side of all of these when they're attached to the footer. This is actually a later step, but I was having so much fun doing all the all the strip wood that I just went for it. So that's been done. All the staining here has been done. And let's talk about what I did on the front, because I got a little outside the instructions too. I almost missed, because again, I missed this in the instructions, and I was like, why is this MDF scored on the top? Because it looks horrible. I don't want MDF on the top. Maybe I'm going to add my own strip wood. Nope. Bill Banta has it in the instructions, add the strip wood to the top of this loading dock. And I completely missed that until I was reading the instructions like the third time through. And I went, oh, it is in there. Never mind. My great idea was already in there. So I went ahead and did what the instructions say and added the strip wood. I did that before I did anything else on the front. And it overhangs a little bit on the front side, which is cool. And I made them overhang just kind of staggered, a little variety on the ends too. So anyway, other than that, it's just 1/16 inch braces, and they're aligned with the scribed markings. And then when you're done with that, there's a 1/16 inch. It's a 6x6 in HO scale brace that runs all across the front. And then there's caps on this, which basically mirrors what this looks like. I did add a brace here and a brace here, just because I thought the gap was so wide. And then I started looking at these, and I'm like, yeah, I could probably add those too, but I don't want to get too carried away. So I did add these two, and it takes almost no wood. Now the front of this in the prototype doesn't have a loading dock. So it's just a front wall, and it's got one of these braces like every 2 feet. So to kind of mirror that, I added these because I like the look of that. But that said, it's kind of how you want to do it. I mean, you can add more. I keep looking at it going like, maybe I should add like 1 or 2 more. But now I've got this board on the top, so it's probably not going to happen. A great opportunity to add a little more detail. It's not in the kit, but I have spares, so I'm probably going to do it. Is nut bolt washers from this board that runs across to all the verticals. So like here, 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 etc., all the way down. I'm probably going to add nut bolt washers at some point. So if you just, again, kind of like the Orban, if you just happen to see those show up at some point, don't be surprised. But it is not part of the kit. But I think it's a cool thing to add to kind of super detail some of this stuff. So. And it looks kind of, Colorado miney. So, okay. So the next step, which is disappointing because you're going to do a ridiculous amount of work, and it's only going to cover like 3 steps. So step number 23 is go ahead and do the siding on the front of this, of these 2 little short little dormer windows. And that's step number 23. That's literally all that's in that step. But it kind of warms you up for the rest of the siding. And then step number 25, you use 2x12s, and 26 is continue to add 2x12s. And that's it. It really doesn't have anything. I think it's 2 sentences for 2 steps. So, but it doesn't reflect the amount of work that you're talking about, because you're going to add strip wood to, and they're 2x12 pieces of strip wood for all along here, all the way around, and then the fronts and sides of those 2 dormers on the front. Oh, and I almost forgot, this here and this, all of that is going to be strip wood. So that's a lot of work. And there's only 2 sentences, so it doesn't really reflect the amount of work. Now, let's talk about what we're going to do. Now, in the Narrow Gauge Gazette, this was featured in, I think, this month, and I'm in September right now, so I just got it like 2 weeks ago. I'm pretty sure that was the issue. this was stained top to bottom, all just wood stain. It looks good, but and then it's got the tar paper roof. But the thing I don't like about that is that it kind of makes it kind of like, beige wall in a hotel lobby. It gets it really doesn't make the building stand out at all. And you can, I guess, do more with the scenery and stuff around it, but I thought I want to do something a little different. Now, Bill chose to do a wash and stain individual boards and kind of gave it a reddish color with white windows, which makes it really striking, especially against the black. So I'm probably going to look at doing something similar. I still haven't decided if I'm going to do black tar paper or go buy some corrugated and do that instead. But let's talk about the weathering or the red color. So this is my test of what I'm going to do. And I've done this a bunch before on some of the kits that you can see on the shelf behind me. There's a method of weathering, and it has a bunch of different names. I've heard it called hairspray weathering, chipping fluid. What you're basically doing is you're going to, say for example, stain the board that you're going to do. And this is really time consuming because you're doing it board by board. You're not putting it all on there and then doing it. You're basically going to stain the board. That gives it a nice good base color. Then you're going to put something on top of that that's water soluble. They make what's called chipping fluid. They make hairspray, just like your wife or mom's hairspray. Just go spray it on there. You can put salt, like grains of salt and stuff on there. What you're trying to do is put a surface that's water soluble under the layer of paint. So then you're going to paint on it, and very thin. Either if you're going to spray it, do a thin spray. If you're just barely enough to cover, and if you're going to do a brush, you really just kind of want a dry brush. You don't want a thick layer because you're just going to try to take some of it off anyway. So you're just making more work for yourself. So then what you do is you saturate the top surface, and again, if you put a huge layer of paint on it, water's not going to get through it, so you don't want to do that. Put water on it, and then you kind of play around with this because it's definitely a skill. But what you do is you start to chip away all of the paint that starts to loosen, and then depending on how much you want to have chipped off is how long you want to keep going. You can take a toothpick and chip at it and remove the paint. If you get too aggressive, you're just going to dig down into the layer of the stained wood, and you don't want to do that. All you're after is the paint on top. You're not after the material, the wood, strip wood, and that's already been stained. So we want to leave that as clean as we can, and you can always restain, but you're just going to be restaining on top of the paint that's there, so you're staining the paint too. So it's definitely a skill. It takes a little practice, but you got a bunch of pieces of strip wood in the kit, so you got lots to practice with. Matter of fact, I'm already practicing to see if I wanted to stain the top darker than the bottom, and I looked at it and went, yeah, it doesn't look right. If I did that, I'd have to restain everything, and I didn't want to do that either. So I'm going to keep it the same color. I'm going to stain this, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the strip wood piece by piece. So let the stuff soak for a while. If it doesn't look like it's soaking all the way through and it's not getting down to that layer of either, I use salt on plastic kits, but I wasn't sure if I really liked it. Hairspray works pretty good. Chipping solution works good. They're both not that expensive to do a big surface. So I'm probably on this kit going to use chipping solution just because I have it. and it's from Vallejo. Yeah, so I'm using Vallejo's chipping solution because I do a lot of military models and I have a lot of military paint, so I have the Vallejo version for that one. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and use that, and I think it works the best. And I have used hairspray a lot. Um, when you're trying to take the paint off the top, let it let the water penetrate underneath it. I've taken an X-Acto blade. I think it's a number 11, just a straight triangular, uh, and I've made little, indentations, little pricks through the paint here and there, very light, just to get the water to get down underneath. And then when it starts to expand, it's going to loosen all that paint on top. You can rub it with your finger. You can use a toothpick. I use a toothpick a lot. You can use like a toothbrush to start working it. You can use a wire brush, but you really got to be careful with the underlying stained wood. So play with it. It's a cool technique. It really gives you a cool effect. And if you're doing it board by board, when you get them all put back up, the boards aren't going to look the same. So it's going to look like a board by board structure, and the weathering is going to look great. What Bill did, I think, Bill will correct me, I'm sure, is it looks like he did a paint wash of varying strengths on the boards, and that will give you a good look too. But I'm going to do the chipping technique first. Now, if I get tired and I don't want to do it that anymore, I'll probably do what Bill did. So anyway, that's the next 3 steps, and this is a lot of work. So it's going to take a while. So be patient, take breaks, put some good music on, make yourself a beverage, preferably not something that's going to impair your judgment. And then we'll go on to the next step. So after that is doors and windows. And doors and windows are also a lot of work. But by the time you get the thing stained and you get the doors and windows on, we're really kind of winding down to, some of the details, roofing, and then the little water tank out back. That's primarily what's left. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get started on this. I will think of me endlessly stripping, staining, spraying, and chipping away at a ridiculous amount of strip wood. Oh, and I almost forgot, since I'm rambling on, as you go through and do each of the wood strips, you'll notice that you're covering up the doors and windows. And what you got to do is, it's probably a good idea to make sure everything's lined up nice and straight, but you don't necessarily have to cover the openings. You don't have to cut them exact, because doors and windows are going to cover that. But all those openings, as you cover them with siding, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to then reopen those. So for example, in this picture, Bill's gone back and put all the siding on, but you'll see all the doors and windows are open. Well, if you notice on this photo, the very first step when he's doing the dormers, you'll see that there's some, it's kind of ugly, right? He's got the first window on the left, nice and tidy. He's got the one on the right. It needs a haircut, big time. The window opening's not done, and the top, the roof peak, isn't done either. So he's got to trim that, and then he's got to trim open. So if you cover up the windows, it's going to be kind of harder to see where you're supposed to be cutting. So if you have smaller pieces, you could put those on. But keep in mind that as you do the siding, you're going to be cutting back open all of the doors and windows from that 2x12. It's a 32nd of an inch thick, a 64th, Anyway, it's thin, so it's not that painful. Sharp blade. If you have a little mini saw blade too, that'll work. You don't want to fray the edges too much, but really super, super sharp blade. Uh, just save yourself some work and don't cover the whole opening if you can. It would make lining the boards easier, but it's going to make then having to go back in and cut, and you're going to have a lot of waste if you do that. So it's kind of a hit or miss. Like for example, on this side, if you put this board up, this siding board, you may hit 3 different windows. So you may be cutting in one way and then cutting in the other way, and it may be too thin on the edge. Like for example, you're going to take so much of the 2x12 out that there's not going to be much left holding it in place. So just kind of play with it and see what works best for you. By the time you're an expert at cutting all that siding away, you're going to be done. So you'll have that skill for your next kit. But there's a ridiculous amount of windows on here. I'm not even going to count them. So anyway, keep that in mind. That is something that is going to be very tedious on this kit. This is probably why I procrastinated this as long as I have. So I'm going to stop procrastinating. I'm going to go ahead and do all the board by board weathering. I'm going to glue them on. I'm going to make sure that the door and window openings are cut back open. And then I will come back and then we'll, yay, do doors and windows, which is also going to take a very long time. So anyway, let's get to it. And I've got some work to do. So I'm going to get going. Hey guys, welcome back. Okay, so real quick, we used Liquitex red oxide paint. It mirrors kind of the red oxide paint that you would see common in Colorado. High altitude structures. It's easy for them to make on site if they want to, or they can buy it. You can choose any color you want, or you can just do like the Gazette example had, where it was just all the same wood grain color, which probably was close to what it ended up looking like. But I really like what Bill did with the different colors, so I kind of mimic that. Stain all the wood strips, do them in different strengths of the stain you're using, so you can kind of get some differentiation in the boards. And then paint the boards up. Now I basically took a stipple brush, one board at a time. Took a stipple brush, about a ½ inch or so, very very stiff bristles. Put a little bit of paint on there, kind of like dry brushing, and then went down the board about maybe a third of the way, smeared it. So I got a lot of blank spots, but I got a lot of coverage too. And then you can see it kind of looks like an old barn side that looks like it's been. I'll post some better pictures. So just looks like it all chipped off. So because obviously it's not getting painted every year. Neither is my house. So so that step is done. Very time consuming. Sharp blade for your X-Acto. Sharp fresh blade for like a one-sided razor blade. I use both of those. I don't really have a. It kind of depends on where I'm trying to get into, how narrow it is, and if it's a big long stretch of which one I use. So anyway, weathering's done. Steps 27 to 33, doors and windows. So real repetitive step. You're going to go through and set. You can sit down and do the glazing on the back. Put the adhesive backed window piece. There's an upper and lower sash to that. It goes right onto the glazing, so it builds up nice. And then there's a frame around that, and then the singles have a windowsill piece, very small, that goes on. So really simple. It's not hard by any means. It's very time consuming because there's so many windows. I mean, I've got sheets of stuff laid out over there waiting for me to go ahead and work on, and it's I didn't even count it because I honestly, if I counted it, I probably would just throw up my hands and go, "No way, I'm not doing that." There's way too many. There's way too many windows. It looks awesome with the windows on it. You can see in the photos of the instructions. So, and that's the back side here. So the front side's mostly roof. So there's a few windows, but not much. So if you want to feel good about yourself, start on the front and save the back for last. Or if you're not going to ever see that side of the kit, don't spend your time on it. Back to the old model what you see. So anyway, when we get done with step 33, we will be doing the, well, we're going to skip over the little supports for the Orban in the back. We already did that. So we're going to actually go down and skip to 37. So step 37 is going to be roofing. Still haven't decided if I'm going to do tar paper that comes with the kit or if I'm going to do corrugated. I like the idea of doing corrugated. I've got a lot of corrugated kits that are going to end up on my layout. So, and also I asked Bill, I'm like, hey, do you have a preference? And he goes, well, mention that the kit has tar paper, but do what you want. And I was like, woohoo! I can do what I want. So part of this video is for a walkthrough for potential builders to kind of help them with some of the little caveats of the kit. But part of it is just to kind of express yourself. And if you don't read the instructions, you're going to be expressing yourselves like I've already done on the front and the back so far. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get started on doors and windows. Basically, I'm just going to paint the sheets. I'm going to put the glazing on the backs of the adhesive parts, and then I'm going to put the window frame over that, and I have to glue that piece onto it, and then put that assembly onto the face of the walls too. So if it's uneven, you may want to go back on the back side and add a little bit of adhesive. Now, I don't use super glue on the doors and windows because I'm always afraid that it's going to fog up the glazing. I've had it do that. I know it does it definitely on plastic, and I kind of want to avoid that. So I'm a big believer in the micro clear, which is right there. And it's basically a rubberized canopy cement that dries clear. So if you get it around on your painting it, if you want to go along the edges on some of the windows from the back side and you screw up and get a little bit on the glazing itself, from the outside, you're not going to be able to see it. So, and trust me, I've tested that theory many times. You can't see it. You're going to see my fingerprints maybe, but that's about it. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and use canopy cement, the adhesive on the windows, and I'm going to spray them kind of like a whitish, light gray primer that I have. And I'm going to use that paint. And if you guys are curious, it is the AK primer. It looks like it has a gray on it for the color sample. It's not gray. I've actually painted it, thought it was mislabeled as white primer. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get doors and windows going. And then when we come back, we're going to start the roof. And I may just skip that section of the video because I'm probably, now that I think about it, I'm going to do corrugated, and it's going to be like many other corrugated kits out there, and things that I've built too. So it'll be corrugated, base color gray, pan pastels, dirt, soot, and rust colors, and then just plain old dull coat over the top of it. So anyway, let's get started, and I will get the doors and windows and come back, and then we'll chat again. Hey guys. All right, so we are done with the doors and windows. That step does take a lot of time. There are quite a few. I lost count of how many doors and windows there are, but 50-something windows. Or that might have been just the little ones. And then I think there's like 7 doors, 8 doors. So that step is done. The step after that we've already talked about. It's use this jig. Make these. You need 4. And you're going to put these as supports under the ore bin back here. Now I actually added more, so I'm going to put 7 of them back here. The kit calls for 4. Glue them in, put a footer 12 by 12 underneath that, and then some X cross braces. So we already talked about that. So after that, doors and windows. Or I'm sorry, that is doors and windows. After that, roofing. So it comes with this material called silk span. They use it for fuselage and wings of model aircraft, wooden aircraft kits. And that's the tar paper material that the kit is supplied with. You can also come up with your own. You can do your own thing, do what you want. Shingle it if you want to, which I think that would be a lot of work. But I'm going to use, I decided I am going to go ahead and use corrugated material. I'm not going to do separate panels because usually when that is done, the model looks fake. It looks like it's got way too many panels and too much separation in the panels. And most of the time when you look at an old building, you won't see that. People will swear you do, but I'm sorry. I've seen a lot of them in Colorado here, and you don't. I've seen whole buildings made out of it, and you can't really tell where the seams are because the material is very small. I mean, then you're going to do by 1/87th in HO scale. So I'm curious to see what you guys do, but I'm going to use corrugated material, and I'm just going to do a lot like a recent building that I did. So we're going to do corrugated across here, HO scale. It's 8 foot in width. Some corrugated came in different sizes. There's 10 foot width, but the stuff that I'm using is going to be 8 foot width. Anyway, at this point you need to kind of decide if you're going to glue the roof on or not. And a reason why is because to take this roof off now that the windows are in place on both sides and on the front, there's window sills here that are now starting to interfere. So you can't just pull it straight off. You got to kind of like shove it all one way, and it doesn't really move that much. Push it as far on one way as you can, flex the roof kind of up and around one side and then the other. That's how it is when it's not covered. Now, if you're going to cover it with roofing material and you want to go all the way over to the wall, you're probably going to ruin it, the roofing material taking it off, because there's just a hairline. I'd say it's not even, it's maybe a 1/16 of an inch. It's probably less, maybe a 32nd of an inch or something. Anyway, it's very little space on there. If you want to get inside it, you can go up underneath for lighting, and you can take the back roof off. You can take this front roof off. So you can still kind of get into it if you need to. You know, if you want to light this up, you could just have wire come up, punch through that wall, and then put a light in here to light those windows. But I'm not going to light it, so I'm not going to worry about that. But there are ways to do it. But to think about taking the roof off after the windows on the sides and these bottom ones here on the front are in place is probably going to cause a lot of problems, because I want the roofing to go all the way up and flush to the wall and on the sides. I don't want to constantly be trying to repair stuff, and because this kit's built with all those interior walls, those support walls, then to even detail the interior is a lot of engineering work that you're going to have to do. So if you do it, go for it. More power to you. But you know what I'm doing. So, okay. So let's we'll talk about corrugated. There is a stovepipe. There's a little piece of plastic that goes right into this hole here as a stovepipe that comes out, and that is step. I don't know. It's part of the roof. 37, 38 is getting the roof done. Then there's this little mention of a step that he talks about. Bill puts a little piece of basswood strip across the bottom of the door and across the top of the door. Thought it looked good. We'll do that. That's step number 30. Sorry, that's step number 39. Add a 6x6 above and below the door. That's literally all that is there. If you're going to do that and there's some more you want to add around the base of the structure, whatever, that would be a good time to do that. So, and then the tank. So all that's left now is the tank. And I'll just go through the steps. I'm not going to read off the numbers, but you basically build the bottom. It's 4 pieces, then skinned by 4 more pieces. They all go into a subfloor. Then there's a piece of scribe siding on the top. That's pretty fast. It's all laser cut, so you don't really have to do much. Then we're going to build up the tank that sits on top of it. So how you do that is glue and cover it with rubber bands. He mentions using a 12 by 12 across that seam, and then clamp rubber bands and all around it, and that 12 by 12 is going to keep the seam nice and flat. It looks like I'm still going to have a gap. Maybe not. That's pretty close. So you may have a little bit of a gap there, and if you do, no big deal. Just face that away from the folks that you that are going to see it on your layout. So once that's done, we're going to put a lid on it. Do that after the wrapper is done because it'll help you align it better, center it because you'll have the thickness of the wrapper on. And before you mount it to this, we're going to put straps on it. Now the straps are basically an adhesive paper material. I know you're probably not going to be able to see it, but anyway, they're just strips. And there's an alignment guide that shows you the spacing. The top spacing is pretty far above the next one down, but you'll notice as you get lower, because of the water pressure that builds up at the lowest part of the tank, that's why you see straps spaced non-uniform on a tank. If it was holding, I don't know, chicken feathers, I don't know, I can't come up with anything. Anyway, then you probably wouldn't see that. But the fact that water pressure builds as it gets further down, that's a reason for this alignment tool. And then just mark the tank, put the strap on, nice and uniform all the way around. And it would probably be best that wherever your seam was on the backside for the wrapper, to probably end up, start and finish with these strips. See how long they are. They are pretty much the same size as the tank, but they do overhang just a little bit. So if there's an overhang, which wouldn't be bad, it wouldn't look non-prototypical. Maybe make those band places where they overlap on the backside where the seam is. Another option is you can actually stagger it like you'll see on prototype tanks, so bottom will go around, and then that joint where they meet will be 3 feet over, etc. So not a big deal. So that's that piece. Now when this water tank gets assembled, it's going to sit like up here. So there's a little housing, I don't want to call it a shed, but it's basically like a covering where the pipes sit inside, and then they go into the tank. So you're going to have to decide if you're going to build this and put it on there and immediately mount it so that this thing doesn't just droop off. Because I imagine the weight probably would make it droop. And to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, this is the last step. This is the photo. These are the laser cut parts here. And you can see kind of what it looks like. And then on this side, you can kind of see what it's going to look like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build that little housing. It sticks out the back. I'm going to leave these pipes so that they're going to get inserted into the tank, but I'm not going to glue them into the housing. So I can just basically take the tank when I get it positioned right and I get this right, then I can just go ahead and insert it back into that housing. So, and one step I forgot is there's supposed to be a filler pipe that comes up the side and then goes across and then down inside, and then a roof hatch that you're supposed to use 2x6s or something, 2x8s to make a roof hatch for the very top, just out of scrap. And there's plenty of strip wood in this kit that you're not going to have to worry about it. If you've got a hatch that you already have that is in your scrap bin that you're looking for a place to use it, that would be a good place too. So that's it. That's the end of the steps, and I'm going to go ahead and finish that. We'll take a look at the finished kit when I'm done, and then we will wrap it up. Okay guys, that's going to do it for this build. We are done. We have finished the weathering and the water tank that goes in the back. You really can't see it very well, but there's a little hatch on the top. You're supposed to make out of just scrap wood. It's got the platform with skinned. It's got a pipe, a filler pipe on it, and then the straps that are like we talked about. So as far as the kit, I'm going to add some photos here at the end so you guys can see what it looks like as you go around, because it's kind of washed out. It's not very conducive to detail shots, but to give you an idea, we did put nut bolt washers on the front again. Smoke jack got added. Let's see, what else have we done? The ore bin here now has its supports underneath it, and it's got a cross brace on each side, and it's got a beam on the bottom. There is a water pipe, so the water tank actually is intended to plug in, but if I do that and glue it on, it's just the pipes, the wire is just going to bend. So that's going to get added once a layout scene is created. But what is here is actually a small little protection for these pipes that come from the water tank and go down into the mill. And this here is a little metal shield that protects the pipes from any of the ice and snow that might come off of here or whatever else happens to be around. So other than that, the kit's pretty much done. I don't really have anything else that I'm going to do to it other than probably glue the roof on. The back roof and this small roof here is easy to take off. And the problem with not gluing this on is if I ever decide to take this off, the corrugated material goes right up to the edge of the wall, and then these windows all stick out, and the windows have windowsills on them. So if I pull the roof out, it's just going to destroy the corrugated and probably the windowsill at the same time. So more than likely, I'm probably going to glue this roof on, and right now it's loose, but it really can't come off because it's kind of held in place by the corrugated that's up against the wall. So anyway, thanks for watching. If you made it to the end, congratulations. You are made of strong stuff. And I want to thank Bill Banta for allowing me to feature this kit in our video series. and I will put links to Bill's website. I have a playlist that I have all of videos that I've done, and I've broken them down by vendor. So there's a Banta Modelworks playlist, because I think this is kit number 25 that I've done a build video for. So anyway, I'll include that. Please let me know in the comments below what you think of the video. I know it's very long, so you don't have to tell me that, although you're welcome to. And if you have any other comments, I'd be interested. I do read them all. So thanks for watching. Thanks for making it to the end. On to the next. I won't tell you what the next one is because I don't really know. So thanks for watching. I will see you guys on the next video. See you guys.